Good morning, Algebra 1. This is Ms. Edwards, and this is lesson 2-4, parallel and perpendicular lines. So first I want to start off with a word problem involving the standard form. I want to see if you remember how to write the equation and how to graph it. So go ahead and pause your video and see if you can figure this one out. All right, so this one says t-shirts at a flea market cost $4.50 each and shorts cost $6 each. You have enough money to buy exactly 12 t-shirts and 9 pairs of shorts. Write an equation in standard form that models the possible combinations of shirts and shorts you can buy. Okay, so first off, whenever I see a word problem like this, I like to identify my variables. Okay, so in this case, I'm going to go ahead and grab my pen. And the two things that we're comparing are t-shirts and shorts, and I usually go in order of the problem. So since t-shirts comes first, I'm going to say x equals t-shirts. And y is going to be the shorts. It's always good to identify what you're talking about first. Excuse me. All right, next we need to figure out how much money you have because we know how much each of these things costs, but we don't know how much total money there is. So it says you have exactly enough money to buy 12 shirts and 9 pairs of shorts. So that means 12 shirts. I'm going to do 12 times. The shirts cost $4.50. Okay, so if I grab my calculator real quick, and I do 12 times $4.50, I get $54. Okay, and then it says you have enough for 9 pairs of shorts that are $6 each, so 9 times 6. And we know that is also $54. All right, so if we add these two together, 50 and 50 make 100, and 4 and 4 make 8. So we have a total of $108 to spend. Okay, so now we need to write our equation. So this involves the price of each item. So since the shirts cost $4.50 each, we're going to say 450x, that represents the t-shirts, plus $6 y represents the cost of the shorts, and our total is 108. Okay, so now when it comes to graphing this, I know this isn't the greatest graph, but we know we're going to have t-shirts down here on our x-axis. We're going to have shorts here on our y-axis. We're not sure exactly what our scale should be. So let's figure out our intercepts and then we can figure out what the scale is going to be counted by. All right, so I'm going to use that cover-up method where we take our box and let's just make them blue. And first I'm going to cover up my x value. And so I have 6y equals 108. So if I take 108 and I divide it by 6, go on my other screen and do that. 108 divided by 6, we get 18. So that means when my x value is 0, my y value is 18. So I can write that as an ordered pair, and I'm just going to put that over here. Whoops. Let's try the pen. X value is 0, y value is 18. So that represents 0 shirts and 18 pairs of pants that you could buy. All right, so now we need to take our cover up, and this time we're going to cover up our y value. So this represents if we buy no shorts, we buy all shirts. So if I do 108 divided by 450, I get 24. So again, if I write an ordered pair, I can buy 24 shirts and 0 pants. Okay. So looking at this, I have to go all the way up to 24 on my x value. So I don't know if I can count by ones. I don't think there's enough there, but maybe 2. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24. We'll call that 24 right there. Okay, and then my other one is 0, 18. So I'm going to go up to 18, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. And then I can connect my dots with a line. And this represents all of the combinations So it's a little hard to tell because our graph is really tiny. But like I see a point right here, and that looks to be about 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 t-shirts, and 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 shorts. So that could be another possible combination. Okay. But the main thing is this is the equation that represents the situation, and I was able to find the two intercepts in order to graph it. All right, so let's move into today's topic. So today's topic is perpendicular and parallel lines. Part of this is a review. You have talked about parallel and perpendicular lines in the past. Just now you're going to actually be using them and solving them in the equations. There are guided notes available for you on Schoology, so you can fill those in as you're watching this video. Feel free to pause, rewind, fast forward, whatever you need. Okay, so first off, let's talk about what are parallel and perpendicular lines. So parallel lines are lines that never intersect, and they include the same slope. So let me just give you an example. So let's say I have something like that. Something parallel to that would be like that. So see how they're equal distant apart, and that both of these lines would have the same slope. Okay, parallel lines never intersect. So I always think of if you're driving down a road, like you're driving down two roads that run parallel to each other side by side, they're never going to cross. Okay, or the lines on the sides of the roads are never going to cross. Perpendicular lines are a little bit different. These are ones that intersect at a 90-degree angle. So they can be slanted a little bit, but I'm going to do ones that are up and down. So for example, if I have this line here and I draw another line like this, see how where they intersect in the middle is 90-degree angles. So that is perpendicular lines. So again, I think about driving. When you're driving and you get to an intersection and you're at a stoplight, typically that is perpendicular lines. Not always, sometimes it could be a little off, but most of the time you would see perpendicular lines there where two roads intersect. Okay, so this is the part that is on the guided note sheet. Feel free to fill that in, or if you just want to watch the video, whatever works for you. Parallel lines, like we just talked about, have the same slope. Okay, perpendicular lines do not have the same slope. They have the opposite and reciprocal slopes of each other. So what I mean by opposite is you change the sign. So if it's positive, it becomes negative, negative becomes positive. And reciprocal, we flip our fractions upside down. Don't forget, if it's a whole number, you can put 1 under it and flip it. And then note, if two lines are perpendicular, their product of their slope is -1. Okay, so looking at the images above, you can tell that line A and line B here are parallel. And if you look at the slopes, you can tell this one, the blue line, line A, has a slope of 2 because you rise 2 and you run 1. And so does line B. You rise 2, you run 1. So they both have the same slope. They are parallel. These ones over here do not have the points, but it gives you the two equations. And if you notice the slopes, so the slope in the first one is 3, and the slope in the second one is -1/3. So if I take 3, I put a 1 underneath of it, I flip it, and I make it the opposite sign, I get -1/3. And then when we're talking about the product, if I take 3 and I multiply it times -1/3, well, I'm going to make 3 a fraction. It's 3 over 1 times -1/3. 3 times -1 is -3. 1 times 3 is 3. So see how I get -1 as my product? Okay, so if you take the two slopes and you multiply them together, you will always get -1 if they are perpendicular. Okay, so let's see if we can try it. So for this one here, our original slope is A over B. So what do we know about a parallel slope? Well, if it's parallel, it's going to have the exact same slope. So it's also going to be A over B. Okay? In fact, for each one of these, the slope is going to be exactly the same. Okay? So whatever your original slope is, the parallel is the same. Now, for perpendicular, remember the opposite reciprocal. So the opposite of A over B would be -A over B. And then the reciprocal, we would flip it upside down. It would be -B over A. Okay? All right. Opposite of -2 is +2. And we flip that upside down, we get 1/2. The opposite of 2/3 is negative 2/3, and we flip it upside down, we get negative 3/2. And the opposite of 0 is still 0, and you flip it, it's still going to be 0. That's one of those exceptions to the rules. Okay. All right, so now we want to determine if these lines are parallel to each other, perpendicular, or neither. Go ahead and pause your video. I want you to take a look at each pair and see if you can figure out which one is which. Okay, so the first one, if you look at the slopes, this slope is 2x, this slope is 2, and really it's not the x, but 2 and 2. They are the same, so those are parallel to one another. Okay, this one is 1/2. This one's negative 2. So if I take the opposite of 1/2, I get negative 1/2, and I reciprocal it, flip it upside down, I get negative 2, which is perpendicular. All right, now this one, you notice they are not in slope-intercept form. If you were to write them in slope-intercept form, so for the first one, let me grab my pen, we would move the 3x to the right, so we'd have y equals negative 3x plus 8. This one is a two-step, so we have to move the 6x over, so we'd have 2y equals 6x plus 16. And then when you divide everything by 2, you get y equals 3x plus 8. So looking at our slopes, we have negative 3 and 3. Is 3 the opposite reciprocal of negative 3? No. Is it the same as negative 3? No. So this one is one of the ones that are neither. Just because the sign is different does not make it perpendicular. It has to be the reciprocal as well. Okay, so now I want to show you how we're going to write the equations. So there's really 3 steps when we're talking about parallel lines. So we have the equation y equals 3/4 x minus 2, and we want to write the line that is parallel and goes through points 8, 9. So first step is to identify the slope of the given line. In this case, our slope is 3/4. So let me go ahead and write that. All right, that means our new equation is also going to have a slope of 3/4. Okay. Step 2, substitute the point and slope into y equals mx plus b and solve for b. This is just like when we talked about point slope form. So I have my x and my y, and I have my equation. I'm going to go ahead and substitute everything in. So y equals 9. My slope is 3/4. My x value is 8 plus b, and we're going to solve for b. All right, remember when you have a fraction times 8, you can do 0.75 because that's equivalent to 3/4, or you can do 3 times 8 divided by 4. So multiply the tops and divide by the denominator. So let's see what that gets us. 3 times 8 divided by 4 gives us 6. All right, so we have 6 plus b equals 9. And if I subtract 6 from both sides, I get 3. All right, so that's my b value. Well, now that I know my slope and I know my intercept, now I can go ahead and write the equation with my new intercept. So my equation is going to be y equals, my new equation is going to have the same slope because it's parallel, and I'm going to have 3 as my intercept. So that means that this equation here, 3x minus 2, is equivalent, or parallel to 3/4 x plus 3. Okay, those two are parallel to one another. If you wanted to double check, you can absolutely use a graphing calculator. You can use your Desmos one. I'll show you on here. So my first equation was 3/4 x minus 2. 3/4. I gotta use the X button on here, minus. Guys, I'm having a hard time this morning. Whew. Minus 2. And then our second equation is 3/4 x plus 3. When I hit graph, of course, it's not a standard window. 9. Oh, give me a second. Apparently there was some stuff left in here from last year. Let's see if we can do this again. There you go. So you can see my two lines are parallel to one another. Okay. All right. So here is one I would like you to try. So go ahead and pause your video and see if you can come up with a line that's parallel to y equals negative 2x and goes through the point negative 3, 5. All right. So again, our first step is to identify our slope. So we know that our slope, our m, is going to be negative 2/3 in our new equation. Okay, then we have to substitute everything in, our x and our y, and our slope into y equals mx plus b. So y equals mx plus b. My y value is 5. My m is negative 2/3. My x value is negative 3. And I'm solving for b. Okay, so again, if we want to multiply this, negative 2 times negative 3 is positive 6. Positive 6 divided by 3 gives me 2. All right, I want to get b by itself, so I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides. So I get b equals 3. All right, my final step is to rewrite the new equation. I know my slope is going to be the same, so negative 2/3 x, and my b is now 3. So that means that this and this are parallel to one another. Okay. All right, so now let's talk about perpendicular this time. You have to be very careful because they will be worded the same, just one will say parallel and one will say perpendicular. Okay. So the first step is to use the equation to find the slope that's perpendicular. So remember, in the first one, our slope is negative 1/4. We want the opposite reciprocal. So the opposite would be 1/4. And if we take 1/4 and we flip it upside down, our new slope is actually going to be 4. Okay. Now we're going to do the same thing we did before. So I have my x and my y. I'm going to substitute these in to y equals mx plus b. So my y is 7. My new slope is 4. My x value is 1 plus b. 4 times 1 gives me 4. And if I subtract 4 from both sides, again, 3 is my intercept. This is just a coincidence that's 3 again. All right, so now I can rewrite my entire equation with my new slope and my new y-intercept. I can say y equals 4x plus 3. All right, now let's test this on the calculator again. Again, you can use the Desmos one, or you can choose to use the TI-83. All right, my first equation, let me go ahead and clear it out, was negative 1/4 x plus 11. And my next one is 4x, 4x. Give me 1 second, I have to use the x on here. Oops. 4x plus 3. All right, we hit graph and it goes off a little bit. So let me zoom out. You can see that they are perpendicular to one another. All right. So here's one for you to try. So we want to know what line is perpendicular to 2x minus 3 that passes through 4, 5. Go ahead and pause your video. All right. So our original slope was 2. So the opposite reciprocal, the opposite would be negative 2, and the reciprocal would be 1/2. So in my new equation, m is going to be negative 1/2. Okay. Then I'm going to substitute everything in, my x and my y. So I have 5 equals negative 1/2 times 4 plus b. Well, negative 1/2 times 4 is negative 2. And if I add 2 to both sides, I get 7 as my b. So my new equation is going to be y equals negative 1/2 x plus 7. So this line is perpendicular to the other line. All right. So what your task for today is completing the parallel and perpendicular lines practice that's on Schoology. It is in today's folder. It looks like this. It is some multiple choice. There's some drag and drops. But if you have any questions, please feel free to visit me in our classroom. I am there available for help and questions. If you are missing something or need to redo an assignment or one of the formatives, please stop by and see me. All right, have a great day.